Hello everyone and welcome to Season 6, Episode 4 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host Travis McNeil, and today we continue our countdown of the top 50 matches of 2021 with match number 47 on our list, which is the NXT North American title match between the champion Johnny Gargano and the challenger KUSHIDA from the NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day event held on February the 14th of 2021. This match, I feel like I just talked about it. Season 5, we did the top 50 matches of NXT. If you haven't checked that out, definitely give it a watch. But this match turned up on that list at number 40. So number 40 in all-time NXT matches, number 47 for the year 2021. When we do, I've had a couple of these instances where I've done these, repeat episodes, where I've talked about a match I've already talked about. That's just the nature of how these countdown lists go. So I try to, keep it a little bit of, fresh and not repeat the exact same content. So that first video is going to have a little bit more of the play-by-play of the match. So if you watch this one and are kind of looking for that, content instead, you can go back and check that one out. Johnny Gargano was, in my opinion, the best wrestler in NXT history, as evident by how many times he appeared on that countdown list. 11 matches out of 50, and countless more if we went past the top 50, he appeared in. And it's funny to me because Johnny Gargano is one of those wrestlers that I think he is an easy person to use as a scapegoat for, what a lot of people feel is, that NXT main event style that's kind of, corrupted wrestling a little bit. The overacting melodrama, looking at the hands, why am I so violent? That's the trope, right? And that doesn't work for everybody. And in a way, I think there is some valid criticism there because he was a part of a lot of those matches. But Johnny Gargano is, in my opinion, one of the most versatile pro wrestlers of this generation because he is so good and he can fit into every role and he can check every box that he really needs to. I've seen this guy have, a 2-year on top heel, title reign in Dragon Gate USA that was just, masterful. I've seen this guy, be the baby face that you want so badly to win the NXT title from Andrade or when he eventually won it from Adam Cole. I've seen this guy do jokey comedy matches in Chikara that have been funny. I've seen him be, an amazing tag team wrestler, in his run with Tommaso Ciampa as DIY and have, some of the best tag team matches of this era with the Revival. I've seen this guy in, crazy, bloody, violent brawls, and I've seen this guy in technical classics like this match. And I've seen him, have openers and dark matches where, he's given 5 to 10 minutes, to tell his story. And I've seen him have, 30 plus minute main events, where he's given an elongated time to tell his story. And more often than not, he delivers. So I think that, painting him somewhat unfairly with this NXT main event style that, doesn't work for everybody, I think it's unfair to Johnny Gargano and really undermines how absolutely incredible of a performer that he is. And KUSHIDA is an interesting story because this dude, some of, I should say, the best junior heavyweight matches I've ever seen. This guy was involved with later in his New Japan run, specifically the match he had with Will Ospreay, in the finals of the Best of the Super Juniors was just unbelievable. Amazing matches with Kyle O'Reilly. I could go on and on and on about the great matches that KUSHIDA had. You know what? I'll add one more. Him and Hiromu Takahashi had like a 4-minute match that is the best under 5-minute match of all time. Where they just go all out for the few minutes that they have, but they tell this amazingly compelling story through it. It is phenomenal if you've never seen it. If you've watched my videos before, you know how I kind of love, these short action-packed matches that, utilize their time so great. That is maybe the best one of all time. It's great. So KUSHIDA top-notch pro wrestler. He's so good. When he left New Japan to go to WWE, I was kind of surprised because I felt like he was on the cusp of transitioning up to the heavyweights. You know, we were seeing Will Ospreay do that. We were seeing Shingo Takagi do that. And I felt like Kushida, that was going to be his natural progression. You know, I would have loved to have seen him in the G1 the year that he left. I feel like there was so much meat on that bone of him still in New Japan. But, I mean, people make their choices. He was unhappy, apparently wanted to turn heel. That was the story at the time. They wouldn't allow him to. He had a great match on his way out with Hiroshi Tanahashi, you know, one of his idols, that showed, you know, he can hang in that heavyweight kind of format. So, you know, what could have been. But he came to the WWE and really just felt like a little bit of an odd fit at first, and they weren't quite sure what to do with him. And it still feels that way with him in NXT. Currently, he's part of a tag team called Jacket Time, which is just, you know, silly. NXT 2.0, you know, is what it is. He, again, feels like a weird fit where you have this, you know, amazingly seasoned, you know, veteran, you know, upper mid-carder, you know, pro wrestler, you know, wrestling with all of these, you know, rookies from different, you know, sports and parts of media and things like that. And, you know, maybe in a way he's good for that because, you know, they can use his experience and they can help him bring these other talents along. But at the same time, it feels like, you know, it's a waste of his talent, at least on screen. So, you know, all frustrations aside, we did get this match where, you know, even if it was just for one match, they really made Kushida feel like, you know, that upper mid-card, you know, main event, occasionally, you know, star that he could really truly be. And of course, you know, Gargano was the guy to do it with, you know, Mr. Consistency, you know, Johnny Takeover, whatever you want to call him. And it led to this match. And the great thing about this match is it was in a period where I really had fallen out of love with NXT. You know, early 2020, I've talked about this a lot. You know, I felt like I kind of had the jump the shark moment where they went back to Gargano and Ciampa again, you know, with a nonsensical turn and just all of this garbage. And then the pandemic hit, and that, you know, pretty much killed NXT dead for me right there. Those shows, you know, outside of a couple of standout matches, those shows were really hard to get through. You know, with the lack of crowd environment. And that was something that, you know, boosted NXT up so well as you'd get because it was kind of that more, you know, indie style, kind of go, you know, sort of wrestling feel. You know, those hot crowds that would come up with it would elevate that atmosphere so much. So when you strip that away, you know, we started to go kind of more to that melodrama stuff, you know, with the lack of crowds. And it really didn't work for me. This match was a pleasant surprise because it was pandemic era, although they did have some fans back. You know, it was in that time where it was, you know, falling out of love with NXT in that, you know, transitional year where they eventually kind of abandoned it all and moved to NXT 2.0. Gargano at this point, you know, he was a heel and he was almost kind of doing some more comedy stuff with the Way faction, with himself and Candice and Austin Theory and Indy Hartwell. So, you know, his matches were constantly run amok with interference and stuff like that. So it was incredibly refreshing that these guys got 25 plus minutes to go out and just tell a compelling story with no gaga, no run-ins, none of that, just good, clean wrestling. And it was so engaging and it was so sorely needed, you know, for NXT at this time, that it really made it a memorable match. Hence, you know, its placement on the NXT list and hence its placement here, you know, for 2021. The story here is really simple. Johnny Gargano, I mentioned, is a heel. And Johnny Gargano wins so many of his matches, and I talk about this a lot if you watch that NXT countdown with any match that he's in, really. You know, he's generally a pace pusher. He is presented as this, you know, great technical wrestler and, you know, very speedy and athletic and agile and creative and cunning. So often in his matches, he starts to push this pace and out-wrestle his heel opponents, and it really works out well for him. But they tell the opposite story here where, Gargano thinks that that's how he's going to go about his match, because that's how he goes about all of his matches. But Kushida is one step quicker. He's one step better. And on this night in this match, he is absolutely the better wrestler. And I think that's something to, we talk about the term, showing ass for a heel in pro wrestling, where, they have to kind of check their ego and let, their opponents really kind of, get the better of them, for the satisfaction of the crowd and for the story that they want to tell. And he does a great job here where he just lets Kushida get everything in and have it all and out-wrestle him in every sequence. And it's really, really great. And it makes Kushida, who's someone that, like I said, is incredibly talented, but maybe hasn't been presented the best in NXT, look like $1 million. So it's incredible how they're able to just seamlessly execute this story. And they set it up immediately where in the opening seconds of the match, Kushida goes for the hoverboard lock and Gargano has to immediately scramble to the ropes. There's an excellent moment where Kushida locks Gargano and the Gargano escape, and it's just, this is your move, but I can do it too because I'm better than you. Gargano, tries to go for the old heel tactic of, okay, well, let's take it out to the floor. I'll use my surroundings and some dirty tactics, to my advantage. But Kushida overcomes out there as well, and he, gets a Falcon Arrow on the floor into a cross arm breaker, then gets like a hammerlock vertical suplex on the floor. And Kushida, to his credit, is so great here because all of his attacks are completely focused on the arm. Every strike he hits is to the arm he's working over of Gargano. All of these moves, these suplexes and these slams and everything like that, he's, hammerlocking the arm or doing it to the arm to cause more damage. He's constantly trying to grab that arm whenever Gargano's trying to create some space. So it's really a really compelling physical match, if you just look for that story there. But where Gargano starts to get some momentum in this match, he realizes that, he's in that opposite role where he now needs to kind of step up to keep up with Kushida. And he gets, a veteran savvy, almost a heel kind of fluke tactic where Kushida, does this really elaborate, kick off of Gargano and backflips over the ropes, and he's all fancy. And Gargano just drills him with a neck breaker between the ropes. And this gives him his opening where he can start working on the neck. And he does a really great job with the neck work here. But one thing that they also do good here is this story that they're setting up, right? Where, Kushida's the better wrestler and Gargano has to try to keep up. Because Gargano is so good as a babyface, even though he's a heel in this match, it could become easy to kind of root for him in that story. So he has these little moments, spliced throughout to still remind you that he's a heel. So he, punt kicks the arm at Kushida, which is a Kushida staple, and, does the time splitter taunt and everything like that. Just still, remind you, okay, this guy is a dirtbag. We still want Kushida to win this match, even though Gargano is fighting from behind throughout so much of it. They do all of these great kind of even Steven spots later in the match where Gargano is, like I said, really having to increase, his momentum and the pace and the speed of his maneuvers to keep up with Kushida. So we first get a really great fish out of water roll-up sequence that ends with a double clothesline. And then later on, they both trade La Mystica, and they both go for their signature submission, the hoverboard lock and the Gargano escape, and they trade in and out of it, in and out of it, in and out of it, and back to another double clothesline. So at this point in the match, it shows that Gargano is starting to turn momentum on his side, and where Kushida was such a step ahead through so much of it, the playing field's now leveled out a little bit. This match has tons of big spots too, really cool moves. At one point, Gargano counters like a hoverboard lock on the top rope into like a big twister suplex off of it and chains that into a tornado DDT. Kushida gets like a hammerlock suplex into the buckles, which was pretty gnarly. Kushida gets a Spanish fly, but when he hits the Spanish fly, he like chains it into a cross arm breaker, which was super, super cool. And that directly leads into our finish. So at this point, Gargano's taken so much damage to the arm. He knows he's in trouble. He manages to get to the ropes. But Kushida, he's that shark smelling blood in the water. He knows that he's going to beat Gargano, with that hoverboard locker, with that armbar. So he holds onto the armbar and they kind of go out to the floor. And Gargano, again, he's that heel, he's that veteran. He has to do whatever he can do to try to escape. And he starts ramming Kushida into the plexiglass that they have the fans behind. And it's finally able to break the hold. And it looks like maybe Gargano, is going to take that moment to rest. And there's this great visual where he's on the elongated, WCW style ramp that they had for NXT. And Kushida kind of shows up at the top of that ramp, having, went through the crowd after getting bashed into the plexiglass. And he runs down the length of the ramp and kicks out the arm of Gargano, right? The same arm kick out that Gargano, arrogantly used earlier. So it was this great, comeuppance moment for him where Kushida gets revenge. And he's able to grab the hoverboard lock in between the ropes as Gargano's trying to, crawl back into the ring. And it leads to this, again, just a great, moment for a very legitimate finish where Gargano is in trouble. But as they're between the ropes, Gargano's able to pull with his body weight and yank Kushida neck first into the rope. So very much like how he started his work on the neck with that neck breaker, he gets this kind of fluke using the ropes to go back to that bad neck. And he's able to basically just, in a last-ditch effort, kind of go for broke. And he hits the one final beat DDT, that slingshot DDT, from the ring out onto the hard ramp that, Kushida had kind of just used against Gargano. Kushida kind of groggily rolls back into the ring. Gargano hits it one more time from the outside in. The damage to Kushida's neck at this point is way too much. It's enough for the 3, and somehow by the skin of his teeth, Gargano is able to retain the title. And what is so great here is that he was able to do it, but Kushida loses nothing in defeat because Gargano snuck out that win. But so many times in wrestling, when heels sneak out the win, how are they doing it? Feet on the ropes, pulling the tights, foreign object, interference of some sort. And you get all of these kind of cheap finishes, right? Which deflate the match a little bit. But here it was so good. It was completely clean. Yes, he used the ropes, but it was, a legal maneuver that he used for his advantage. And it made perfect sense that, would Kushida have used the rope in that way? Maybe not. But Gargano, he's that crafty veteran with that slight edge. He was going to use it. He used it to win. And, the DDTs he hit were sick, right? That's his finisher. He hit 2 of them, one on the ramp. Despite Gargano having taken way more damage in this match than Kushida, I bought that was enough to do it. So it was a really great finish. It was a really great, satisfying finish to the story that they were trying to tell, and it made both guys look great coming out of it. This match, so good. If you haven't seen it, it is worth a watch. And like I said, it's a gem in an era of NXT that really wasn't producing too many gems. You can find it, of course, on Peacock. If you're outside the US, it's on the WWE Network. You can subscribe to my channel here on YouTube so that you never miss a video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50. And please join me again tomorrow as we continue to count down Pro Wrestling's Top 50.